When the music fades. Olivia stood in the empty living room, staring at the grand piano that had once filled her home with music. The glossy black surface caught the light, gleaming like a reminder of all the beautiful melodies that once floated through the air. But now, the house was silent. Not just the absence of music, but the absence of life itself. For as long as Olivia could remember, music had been at the center of her world. Her parents had been musicians, her mother a classical pianist, her father a violinist, and music was how they connected as a family. There was always a tune, a rhythm, or a harmony filling their home. When Olivia turned 5, her parents gave her piano lessons. At first, she was reluctant. But as her fingers grew more confident on the keys, she found a passion for music she hadn't expected. Years passed, and Olivia's talent blossomed. She was accepted into a prestigious music academy, and her parents were her biggest supporters, attending every recital, every performance. They shared her dreams, encouraged her to reach for the stars. But there was a shift in the atmosphere when Olivia was around 20. Her mother grew sick. The disease was slow and cruel, stealing her mother's strength over months, until eventually, she could no longer play the piano. It was as if the music was being drained from their lives, note by note. Her father, heartbroken, poured his energy into caring for his wife. Olivia, trying to balance her studies with the looming sadness at home, felt herself growing distant from the music that had once been her everything. When her mother passed, the silence became unbearable. Olivia took a deep breath as she recalled the day of her mother's funeral. It had been cold, and the sky was a muted gray. As the final notes of the service ended, she made a promise to herself: she would never play again. The music had faded from her life, and she couldn't bear to continue without her mother by her side, encouraging her with every note. Years went by. Olivia completed her degree but turned away from music as soon as she could. She started a job in marketing, far away from the concert halls and recitals that had once been her future. The grand piano in her living room sat untouched, a relic of another life. Now, Olivia was 35. She was settled into her career, but something always felt incomplete. Her days were filled with meetings, deadlines, and the relentless pace of corporate life. But at night, when she returned to her quiet apartment, the silence seemed louder than anything. She avoided looking at the piano, as though it would force her to confront the past she had tried so hard to leave behind. One evening, after a particularly stressful day at work, Olivia sat in the dark living room. The rain tapped softly against the window, a steady rhythm that echoed her restless thoughts. She reached for her phone to play some music, but hesitated. Instead, she found herself walking towards the piano, her fingers brushing the cool keys. She hadn't touched it in years. She sat down on the bench, the familiar seat creaking under her weight. The house was so quiet, and the sensation of her hands on the keys brought back a flood of memories. She thought of her mother, sitting beside her during those early lessons, gently correcting her posture, her tempo. She thought of the way her mother's face lit up when Olivia played something new, something beautiful. With a trembling hand, Olivia pressed a single key. The note rang out, clear and pure, cutting through the silence like a beacon. For a moment, she froze. The sound was foreign, but also strangely comforting. She pressed another key, then another, until a melody began to form. It was a song she used to play with her mother, a soft, delicate piece that had been her mother's favorite. As her fingers moved across the keys, the memories came rushing back. The joy, the laughter, the tears, they were all woven into the music. And though her mother was no longer there, Olivia could feel her presence in every note. The music swelled, filling the room like it hadn't in years. Olivia closed her eyes, letting the melody guide her. She played with an intensity she hadn't known she still had, the weight of the past lifting with every chord. It was as if the piano had been waiting for her all this time, waiting for her to return, to pick up where she had left off. When the final note faded into the air, Olivia sat in silence, her hands resting on the keys. She felt a tear slide down her cheek, and she didn't try to stop it. The silence that followed wasn't oppressive, but peaceful. For the first time in years, she felt something shift inside her. The next day, she called her old mentor, a piano instructor from her academy days. "I'm thinking about starting lessons again," Olivia said, her voice shaking slightly. "It's been a long time, but I think I'm ready." Her mentor was quiet for a moment, then replied, "I've been waiting for this call, Olivia. It's never too late to return to the music." As the weeks passed, Olivia found herself rediscovering the joy of playing. At first, it was difficult. Her fingers were stiff, her timing off. But with practice, the music began to flow more naturally. She even started attending small recitals again, something she hadn't done in over a decade. One evening, after a successful performance, Olivia sat down with her father for dinner. He had attended the recital, his eyes misty with pride. As they ate, her father spoke quietly. "Your mother would be so proud of you." Olivia smiled, a warmth spreading through her chest. She thought of her mother often when she played, but it wasn't with the same sadness as before. The music had become a way to honor her memory, to keep her alive in a way that words couldn't. It was their connection, their shared language. The music had faded from Olivia's life, but now it was returning. Not as it had before, but in a new way, one that acknowledged the pain, but also celebrated the love and joy that had always been there. The silence no longer haunted her. In its place was the sound of new beginnings, the soft echoes of healing, and the music that would always be a part of her, no matter how much time had passed.
Thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, and share our channel Magic Mingle with your friends to enjoy more magical stories.